All right, let's dive right in. We're going to take a trip back in time, way, way back, to a world where beauty wasn't just skin deep. It was literally a passport to the afterlife. We are, of course, talking about ancient Egypt, where aesthetics were designed to last forever.
I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. If our fashion world moved at the same pace as ancient Egypt's, we'd still be wearing stuff from the time of the Roman Empire. It sounds completely wild, but on the banks of the Nile, this incredible stability wasn't just normal, it was the entire point. So here's the key thing to understand. This was never about chasing the latest trend. For the Egyptian elite, your life on Earth was just a rehearsal for eternity. And, well, an immortal soul needs a classic, timeless look, right? You couldn't exactly pack fleeting fads into your tomb.
And this whole philosophy, it really boils down to one single concept: Nefer. This one word captured their ideal of perfect, harmonious beauty. But it wasn't just about looking good. It was about a total alignment of your physical self and your spiritual well-being. To be beautiful was to be in a state of grace. And what was the end game here? Well, all of this effort, the art, the clothes, the makeup, it was all for what you could call eternal seduction. See, beauty wasn't just for attracting a partner in this life. It was about making sure your soul was attractive and whole for the next one, which to them was way more important.
So how did they actually put this philosophy into practice? Well, it all starts with the idealized form, the way they showed the human body in their art and the clothes they designed to go with it. And don't forget this number, 30 centuries. For 3,000 years, the basic elements of Egyptian style stayed pretty much the same. Now, this wasn't a lack of creativity. It was proof of their unwavering focus on that one, perfected, eternal ideal.
And this tells you so much about how they thought. When you look at Egyptian art, you're basically seeing the world's first Instagram filter, but for an entire civilization. The bodies are always firm, slender, and forever young. Artists would even tweak proportions, like make the legs longer, just to get that perfect, graceful look.
Queen Hatshepsut is the perfect example of this. She was one of the most powerful female pharaohs ever. And in all of her official art, she's presented as the ideal of Nefer, a graceful young ruler just frozen at the peak of her power and beauty. This was the image she needed to last forever. But in 2007, scientists identified her mummy. And the reality? Oh, it was a totally different story. She was actually an obese woman in her 60s. The archaeologists who found her bluntly described her as having enormous breasts that fell like pendulums. The difference is just staggering. It proves they weren't trying to preserve the real self, but the ideal self.
And this obsession with the ideal body, it carried right over into their clothes. For guys, the go-to outfit was the shanty, a simple, short skirt. Later on, they added longer kilts and pleated tunics for fancier events. For women, the classic look was the tubular tunic, a seamless, super body-hugging dress that really showed off their curves, often even leaving the breasts exposed, which was considered completely natural.
So what were these clothes made of? Well, the star of the show was light, breathable linen, absolutely perfect for the climate. And because linen was really hard to dye, their main color was white, which was also a symbol of purity. And what about shoes? Most people just went barefoot. The rich wore simple sandals made of leather or papyrus, a design so perfect it's basically been unchanged for 5,000 years.
Okay, but achieving this look wasn't just about art and clothes. Let's zoom in a little bit and take a look at the ancient Egyptian beauty counter, from their makeup to some surprisingly modern skincare.
What's really amazing is that makeup was for everybody. Men, women, rich, poor, everyone was in on it. But here's the thing, it wasn't just about looking good. Egyptian makeup had a very practical, almost medicinal purpose.
Their makeup kits were packed with some pretty potent stuff. The most famous, of course, was kohl, that black eyeliner made from a mineral called galena. It didn't just give them that dramatic look, it was also an antiseptic that protected their eyes from infections and the sun's glare. They'd pair that with uju, a green eyeshadow from malachite for the lower lid. For a splash of color, red ochre was used as a lip and cheek stain, while henna was used to dye their nails and even for temporary tattoos.
And get this, they were seriously ahead of their time with skincare. The Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest medical books in the world, actually has recipes. Here's one for an anti-wrinkle cream. You grind up terebinth gum, wax, and tiger nut, mix it all with fresh moringa oil, and then you apply it to your face every single day. They even finish the recipe with a little note, do that and you will see. How confident is that?
Now, this whole obsession with creams and cleanliness wasn't just about being vain. It was tied directly to their religious beliefs. You could almost call it a religion of hygiene, where being pure was a divine duty.
Purity was everything, especially if you were a priest. I mean, their rules were incredibly strict. They had to bathe at least 4 times a day, twice during the day and twice at night. They had to shave their entire bodies every other day, and yeah, that includes eyebrows and eyelashes. They even purified their mouths with natron dissolved in water. For the Egyptians, being clean meant you were ready to meet the gods.
And they were committed to this. Their hair removal methods ranged from things we'd recognize, like tweezers and blades, to some really creative concoctions. One recipe for a depilatory plaster involved a mix of boiled bird bones and fly droppings. Yeah, you can't say they weren't dedicated.
Okay, finally, let's get to the crowning glory of the Egyptian look, their hair. Or maybe more accurately, their lack of hair, and the incredible wigs that took its place.
The wig was everything. It was the ultimate status symbol.
But did you know they were also using hair extensions way back in 3400 BC? It's true. Kids would have shaved heads except for one single side lock of youth, which they'd ceremonially cut off when they became adults. And at parties, the elite would top their wigs with these cones of scented fat that would slowly melt over the course of the evening, basically acting as a personal air freshener. But their expert knowledge of hair wasn't always used for good. Hidden away in some of those ancient papyri, you can find actual recipes designed to do harm, literal curses you could put on an enemy's head to make their hair fall out. Luckily, they usually included a recipe for the antidote, too.
There's this ancient quote from the story of Sinewe that just perfectly sums all of this up. When the main character returns to Egypt after being exiled, he describes being cleaned, shaved, and dressed in fine linen and oil. See, this transformation wasn't just physical. It was about returning to civilization, to a state of purity and harmony, a return to Nefer.
So that leaves us with one last, really fun question to think about. After exploring a culture that valued timelessness and purity so much, what would they make of us? Of our fast fashion, our obsession with anti-aging, or our very complicated relationship with body hair? It's kind of fascinating to imagine, isn't it?
Thanks for joining us on this trip into the ancient world. We'll see you on the next Explainer.